Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Chicago 16-inch Softball Hall of Fame. And today is another pleasure to be here because today we are going to be talking about the team concept that on October 26th got inducted into the Hall of Fame, a team called the Snappers. And to my right today is Jerry Domico Jr., who played and managed this Snappers team that was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Before we get started with Jerry, we always want to thank and take the time to thank the board and our president, Paul Rowan, for setting the time aside for these great interviews with players on the women's side, on the male side, and of course, these great teams and individuals that are honored for their support. So today is Teams Honored, and today is the Snappers, and we are in front of a live audience today. So this is good. We normally start about 2. We're going to start a little bit early today. And today, to my right, of course, is Jerry Domico. Jerry, thanks for coming in here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is really nice. And to talk about this and that night of October 26th, which was an incredible night. Mm-hmm. Were you there with the family?
Yes, all of us were there.
Yeah, it was like a wedding atmosphere.
Yeah.
Your wedding atmosphere, or like an Academy Award style. I really enjoyed it, and being a part of the board here and everything else and doing this. It was really neat to see because all these Hall of Famers, man, female, always talk about it. So you get started in a town that's known for, how can I say Rosemont? It's right by O'Hare. So you would never think it's going to be known for maybe a team coming out of there. But to elaborate on it, you start playing in Rosemont.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So now, was it friends? How does it start out in the incept of this? How does it start?
Yeah, that's what it was we all went, most of us went to Rosemont School, and actually at that time they had we would play 16-inch against other community schools, and me and Brian Sears, who we were the 2 originals that started and ended all together. We would go see his older brother play.
Oh, wow.
So they would be out there, and he was on a team called the Bombers, and then there were some other teams out there, and Nicky Marchese was out there on, I believe, one of the teams, and so we would watch these guys play, and we just wanted to do that, and then just started asking some guys that we went to grade school with, which now we're in high school. I was actually in college playing baseball, and so we just got a group of young guys together, and I would say, I think our oldest guy was probably like 22. And
wow.
And but most of us were all from Rosemont, and if we weren't from Rosemont, we're from Des Plaines, which is right next to us.
So right. So just to start, it was always 16, right? It wasn't 12 or anything like that, or but comedy. So now you start out in this league. How was it? Was right in Rosemont there. That was on what, Scott and cross street there. I forget this cross street.
I'm forgetting. Yeah. If you turn into Rosemont, the gated community, for people that know it now, Scott Street's that main street.
Yep.
You would just go straight down, and you would run right into the park. And they had 2 fields, but they only played 6-inch on the one field, and they had a bunch of tall trees to protect some of the houses that were across the street from some of the guys that were.
You can imagine some guys
have some power.
Would be launching them, yeah. So you're playing a different team. It could have been the Smith team and the Jones team, and now you decide that you're going to form basically a team of. You want to get this team of 10, maybe 14 guys that you want to put in good position to maybe take it to the next level. Am I correct in saying it that way?
Yeah, that's correct. We played there for a few years, and then I was playing on some other teams and in tournaments and at Mount Prospect. So the goal was, that's where all the big guys played, and that's where, I wanted to get us. And finally got the call from, Bob Ancona, and we got into the A League there, and then we played one season there. We shared the title there with a team called the Mongos. And then the following year, we moved up to the Classic League at Mount Prospect.
Wow, which was
We're the real big boys.
yeah. So basically here, for several years, you guys won the championships. I mean, 98, 99, 2002, 2004. And then, of course, you joined this Mount Prospect League in 2001.
Mhm.
So I got to ask you, as the guy who played basically at Oriole Park, Merrimack Park, I played in a hotel league off of in Catherine Woods. Did you see now the progression where you went from this now to this Mount Prospect League? Did you see like, okay, let's see how good and bad we are on the dance floor? How was that insect like that?
Yeah, so we, like you said, we won a couple championships there, so we felt like, we were ready to go. And the first year we played, and you realized it was gonna be more competitive, and a lot of the teams were better teams than what the Parks have. And that very first year that we were in the A League, we actually went to our first nationals, and that was in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
And to be like you'd be considered an expansion, like if there's an expansion, first year teams going to South Dakota. It's amazing, right?
Yeah. So because I had the experience of playing in some of the nationals with some other teams. I was on the actual March manufacturing team. That's how we, kind of ran into Fritz and became a sponsor for us. And so I wanted to do that. And we were all young and wanted to travel. And then you're all together and you're just having fun. And then kind of continued, and then then all of a sudden there was no more traveling. Everything's local now, and
yeah, exactly. To go back to that, like sometimes I'll listen to the stories of Rich and Frank, who's in our Franklin, who's in our audience. Mick, is it hard? And of course, it looks like you were the organizer, the manager. Is it hard? Okay, hey, last year we didn't do so well. We got a weakness in left field. We got a bad shorts, not a bad, I shouldn't use the word bad, a short center that can't hit, but he can field. Was it hard for you to make those upgrade changes? Did you guys do it collectively, or is Jerry Domico making these changes on his own?
I think at the very beginning, it was kind of probably more me, but we were all together. There was, I think, maybe 14 of us. And then like the one guy on our team, Mike Gulo, he's like, oh, Mike, we got this other guy that we could play. And then that kid brought a friend. And then all of a sudden we got probably one of the best third basemen, so now you move your third baseman to somewhere else. And so it was, I guess I kind of got lucky a few times where, you knew a guy and now you brought him, and, and then all of a sudden, now he's a good player. And, that's how we got Kenny Gould on our team, even though he was from Rosemont and he was same age as my sister. A friend of ours brought him, and that's how we got him. So, and then once we went to Mount Prospect, kind of similar things, some of the older guys, they knew some other guys, and then they would come, and and that's kind of how we got better,
better at it. Right.
And then some didn't really have to cut anybody. I think some people were just kind of like, okay, well, this year I didn't play as much and I'm not as good as I used to be, and this team is trying to progress and do better, and just kind of like would leave on their own. So,
and like I said, when I'm always here over this last 2-3 year period that I've been here and just listen, I love listening to the stories. I mean, I love listening to the games and situations that these guys have been in. You could see a guy like maybe, hey, there's Joe down the street. Hey, he's a good left fielder. Did you find sometimes that maybe the Joe down the street wasn't the guy that didn't fit in with the original snappers, and you had to be like, oh shit, this guy just doesn't. The camaraderie wasn't there.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of funny because like we all kind of grew up together in a small town, and
right.
Stuff, and
now, so you bring out these outsider. So how was that? What I love about this game, because sometimes I'll tell people. Hey, I'm doing this stuff now for the Chicago 16-inch softball Hall of Fame. Like, Hall of Fame, 16-inch, but that's such an easy game. Easy game, I go, God, you got to hear the strategies of this game. Like, I played on so many teams where of course, not at this level, but so many teams were, a guy would just want to come up and pound one over the fence, or, we had runners in scoring positions. And when I talk to these guys in the audience all the time, they'll tell me, hey, we had a runner on second, push the ball to right, dump this way. As the manager, did you ever have to have that constructive talk with your players? Because you guys played at a very high level.
Yeah. We, once we were kind of in Mount Prospect and moved up and we started getting some more of the veteran guys.
Yeah.
I think they kind of did more of that than I did. Like, I don't even know how it happened. I switched from, hitting the ball to, left field, left center, more center field, to all of a sudden now, you got two guys out here that, I'd come up and they'd be like, oh, watch the right field line. I'm like, how do they even know this?
Yes. And you know what, Jared? Thank you for bringing that up, because here's what is phenomenal, even about this. Because, you're younger than me and a lot of the guys here in the audience today. But here's the phenomenal part about this. Now we have this YouTube. And, people are out there with their phones and, Domico, he just likes to he's a pull hitter. He likes to go to left. But in their day, they saw him once or twice, and Mick's told me stories because, hey, I knew how to play this guy. I knew what he was going to do, knew what to. So that's the part that I find, wow, you can remember after one or two games what that person did. So you better adapt and you better adjust.
Yeah.
So you saw a lot of that with these guys.
Yeah. And the thing too is like when we had a smaller team and whatever, you kind of know what each other can do and what they're going to be, and defensively and all stuff, because, we weren't always like, we were kind of up and coming team, but we weren't one of the best teams or whatever. And, but we all were good defensively. And then we had to get better offensively, and that's where we kind of started getting some of the veterans to come.
You make it in 13. You guys were with in the Mount Prospect, right?
Yes.
2000. Then you kind of make a decision to go to Schaumburg.
No. So Mount Prospect lost their lights.
Oh,
and the park shut down, and we ended up transferring out to Schaumburg with a few of the other Mount Prospect teams, and then I think we were only there maybe 2 years or maybe even 3 years, and then we moved to Melrose Park.
Right, and that's the situation. Is it still going on?
So Melrose Park is still there. Unfortunately, there is no more current Snappers team.
Right.
We'll see what happens in the future, but
when did it kind of dissolve?
This year was our first year that we were not a team anymore, which kind of stunk, since we were going into the Hall of Fame and not having a team.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was still continuing, but no, this was the last year.
Yeah. So
are you still thinking to get this back on some kind of track?
Well, at the Hall of Fame dinner, I was informed by my sponsor that I was supposed to be getting a new team, and I don't know. I guess I got to look into that, but I'm thinking maybe next year, not this year. So
senior ball.
Yeah. So
you played in a lot of tournaments, from the Rosemont days to the days of course, Mount Prospect, which was one of the places to go watch a game. Is there any one or two tournaments, 3 tournaments where you guys won, you had to come from behind, or you dominated? Can you tell me about the one you dominated where you didn't think you were going to dominate? And then we'll go to the one where you guys maybe didn't come from behind. Do you remember a domination of a game?
No, not really. Like, everything was always really close for us. It's like, but like 2 years ago at the, SSAA Nationals, we came back and we beat Goodwood when we were down in the last, walk off in the bottom of the 7th. And then the next day, I forget who we were playing, bottom of the 7th again and making a comeback. And the thing is in the past, that would never be a Snappers thing. It was always like we'd have the lead, and then if we lost the lead, that was kind of the end of it. So, just that fight and the excitement for, how it went, was great. The picture that we have actually
Yeah,
in the.
I'm gonna hold this
in
up,
here,
the picture, if we get a little bit
Um,
closer, this is the team of the Snappers.
That
It's
year,
a-
we finished fifth. We actually did pretty well. I think we had higher expectations than what ended up happening, but we finished fifth. We finished fifth a few times. We finished second at the Eggs tournament the one year, which we got into the
Sure,
winners bracket final as the undefeated team, and then got double dipped, and that was kind of heartbreaking
Sure.
because that tournament we played extremely well. Not that we dominated anybody, but we were winning, and it was like we take the lead and we just kind of continued, and then for that last 3 hours of that day was kind of disappointing, but
25 years, right? Total. with
so
the
ended up
Snappers.
would have been 29.
20,
So
okay.
yeah,
Wow.
so
Wow.
yeah.
And it was the same basically nucleus. We'll use that word of guys.
There was two of us that were the very first team and the very last team, and then, but for the most part, in the last, I'd say 10 years, we had probably about the maybe 7 or 8 of the same nucleus guys, and we kind of
core
added guys, and
The core guys.
Yeah.
How did you feel like, because I read on this about you, heard a little bit about it, being invited? I mean, isn't that the coolest thing? Sometimes, you're getting invited to these tournaments. I mean, were you shocked all the time, or were you just, okay, hey, we're going to this tournament, or hey, how did you take it in stride? Because, I look at this, and which is nice for me is, you came from this little small town thing, Rosebud. I came from Norwich.
Mhm.
So, if anything was big, like I played hockey my whole life. And to get to the level I did in hockey, from Norwich, skating on a pond, and there were kids that were skating out on rinks, like, at Glenview and the Chargers, and I was skating on a pond. How did you feel to have that, to come from nothing, basically, and then to take it to the level that you did?
Yeah, the first year that we ever got invited to the Forest Park tournament was awesome.
Right here?
Yeah, right here, right outside the doors here.
Yeah.
That was a huge accomplishment because, you're just like a small team, and, you're always competing and battling and all that stuff. And, back in the day when ASA would have their weekend tournaments where you had to earn points and all that stuff to get your bid. And,
Sure.
there was a couple of years there where we were the top team in points. We won tournament another year to get our bid, but, because you always wanted to go to, nationals, but like I said, being invited to Forest Park is, a great accomplishment. And, the very first year and even the last year that we got invited, was great. And, even being a playing team, it's like,
Sure.
okay, you're here, and they at least acknowledge you and see you, and okay, now go win 2 games and get in.
Yeah.
And we did that twice.
And you look at this Forest Park, we were here for, I think you were here that day. It was in July where, we get the inductees that are going to this team. But it was so cool. When I really looked at the field, like, what a little field of dreams here in this little town. You look at and these guys are always constantly are telling me the stories, and I remember this. And I still remember when Steve Cashel and Mike North were doing the games here on Sunday nights. That was just amazing,
And another thing too is so long ago, Forest Park is different now, but they used to have the scoreboard out in right center field on the closer fence or closer field.
Yeah.
So it was like you're an outfielder and you're like, okay, is this going to go over the scoreboard or is it going to hit the scoreboard? And then you're running here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So even back then it was kind of it's just a different atmosphere being here.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. When you were playing with the Snappers, yourself, of course, managing the team, were you playing, like, if I called you up and I was at Oriole Park and I needed a guy for my A team, the Italian Stallions was the name of my team, would you come and play in it? Would you go down if you had nothing to do?
Yeah.
Because I think your wife said you had a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah. No, I would go, and like I was telling Frank earlier, out in Schaumburg, because we were talking about the new renovations Schaumburg's doing. the one summer I played for Thunder, even though I was on the Snappers, and then, you're at Mount Prospect and now you're playing against them. And, the next night I'm out in Schaumburg and I'm on their team with them. And
Right.
so, but yeah, I would go around and play with, whoever. And
Rick, go ahead.
Okay, you go.
Rick and our audience.
You go if it was the Italian Senators.
Oh, for sure. I'd fit in that.
How come it was the Irish leprechaun?
It depends on,
Keep up an engine, Domico.
I got to throw a little gravy on it.
There's one thing that I loved, and Mick Balestri told me this when I first started here, and it stays in my mind. And I think even because now, you're the next level after these guys, and in playing this, how many nights were the Snappers out there a week, you think? Playing in games, a tournament, like say in the heart of freaking June, July, how many nights a week were you out there?
probably 5 of the 7. Yeah.
Okay, 5 of the 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we would play at Mount Prospect, and then we also would do a secondary league where, at the beginning we were in Rosemont still and Mount Prospect. And then we played at some other ones.
And you still love them, right? You still.
And then played plus the tournament stuff.
Nicole in our audience, Nicole Domico is here also today with their children. But Mick said something to me, I'll never forget it. He goes, I go, Mick, how many days you out there? He goes, I had 15, 16 games a week. Yeah, I go, were you ever invited to a wedding? He goes, wedding?
Yeah.
He goes, they're lucky if I send the envelope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
And his wife, Frank can attest to this, Rick can attest to this. Their wives were going there on their own. And I remember one time my wife had a baby shower and she wanted me to go there to take some boxes. I go, I got no time. She goes, you're playing in an A-League in Oriole Park and you don't have any time.
So the funny thing with that is with me, I was always just very honest with all our players, and
Sure.
I'd be honest with them and be like, hey, you know what? If you can't make it, you're an adult, just let me know. I don't need the reason why or whatever.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is Mick saying, hey, you know what? We wouldn't miss for anything. The one year we were out at Mount Prospect and I get, I'm sending out the texts or calls or whatever, just making sure we're gonna have enough guys.
Sure.
And one kid tells me, who's a young kid and who hadn't played, like he didn't have Mick, it's not Mick Jr. and Mick Sr. It's a kid who's just out there, whatever. And he tells me, he's like, oh, I can't make the game. I'm going out to dinner with my girlfriend's brother for her birthday. And I'm like, you just stop with, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
So like the commitment, it was just, it was a little bit different. And then now, that was kind of the thing with the last couple of years with us. Still competitive, but when we would have everybody,
Sure.
it was a whole different team.
Sure.
There's no reason for me to be out in the outfield running around playing against the 45s.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
and again, like that commitment levels we talk about, is gone away from, hey, don't bother in the summer, don't bother in the fall, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You don't bother anybody. So you get this call. By the way, how were you always kind of like the manager, the voice of reason for this team? Were you the go-to guy when there was a problem or when something happened that was good?
Yeah. So it would always be B. I don't know how I got stuck doing it. Like I said, but it was only me and Brian, from the beginning, but how it started at the beginning, I don't know.
Yeah.
I might have been like, oh yeah, I'll do it this year. And then, we'll move on. And, 30 years later, it's still me,
Still you.
But any problems or any good things or bad things, it would always be my phone or me getting called over to get talked to or whatever. And that was my joke, is I'm like, you have a roster. I could always leave me off the roster because everybody knows it's me. It's my team. It's not like they're gonna be like, oh, he's not on the team.
Yeah.
It's our team, but
It's
it's always, I'm the face, I guess.
But you hope for this to get started again?
I wouldn't mind because it was a lot of fun. And as long as it's the right group of people and
Great
all that
memories.
stuff. Yeah. I mean, my joke always was, we might not be the best team, but we look the best in our uniforms.
Yeah.
Because we were always taken care of, and
Sure.
but it's the memories, and playing in the North-South tournament, and my daughter forgetting her sweatshirt behind in the dugout, and then three different guys, bigger sizes, putting it on and taking pictures, and it's just a joke. And then then it ended up being my son's sweatshirt another time, and
Yeah.
Big Joel's got it on at the end, and he's like, oh, I got her another 2 years of fitting into it now. And but it was just great times, especially traveling, and
And you still keep in touch with a lot of these, the core of this, yeah.
Yeah. So, and we had a good turnout at the dinner. I think there was 16 of us. So, I mean, I know it's not, everybody, but
Sure.
it was a good turnout, and I was very happy, and it was nice to see some of these guys again and
Sure.
hang out with them. So,
Yeah, I mean, you accomplished so much in the short time. You guys did very well. I mean, and I have to ask you then. So, did you know, or did you have a feeling that maybe one day this is going to happen? We're here at the Chicago 16-inch Softball Hall of Fame at Forest Park. Did you have a feeling that this team would go in?
no, actually, I didn't.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I mean, there's, times where, some
Sure.
people would talk negative about us, and, they shouldn't be in this, or, they shouldn't be in that tournament, or we're not going to invite them, or whatever. Actually, Rich Hennessy is, the one that was like, hey, why don't you put it in, write it up? I'll, give it back to me. And so I did, and
Well, the record speaks for itself, when we're looking at this kind of stuff as a board, and, and the Hall of Fame board that does this. But I got to tell you, who called? And did you get the call, or did somebody
I
else
got
send
the
you?
call from Paul.
Paul, and then how were you like, wow, okay, was it a weeknight? Where were you? You remember what he said to you?
Oh yeah. So my daughter had a tournament, and after her game, we were all out to dinner, and the phone rang, and it was a number I didn't know, and I answered, and I couldn't really hear what he said, and
Sure.
I'm like, oh, give me a second. I ran out of the restaurant, and
It's one and honor, huh?
That's one of the best answers I've seen in the show.
Yeah,
Right there.
without a doubt. The
Yeah.
emotion in me, because I got to tell you, Jerry, just and I know you didn't have any words for this, but I got to tell you, any kind of a Hall of Fame, I don't care if whatever you're doing, it means something.
Sure.
It's work, it's effort, it's sweat, it's your work ethic, it's your dedication. And I see it here today, just in the conversation and how you were talking to me. That's something, because I mean, 29 years is 29 years. We didn't do this. You didn't do this for the joke,
Yeah.
I mean, it's tremendous. And I got to say this about you now. I'm going to have a couple of guys ask you questions, or even the missus here today called to ask a question. I got to tell you, here's what really gets me, and it's the last line, because I always look for something, but it's the same core group of guys displaying integrity, and they've accomplished so much in that time. It looks like you were looked up to keep this thing going, and you did a phenomenal job, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you, man. You ain't tough. Well, this is fantastic.
Sometimes it was hard to keep going, but you got guys.
You did a great job.
Guys on here that are like, come on, do it one more year, and then
Wow.
get that year, then it's like, come on, one more, and
I'm sure, like you said, they're missing it too,
yeah.
in their own way. Mick Balestri will start to just speak up, because I don't have that mic, but
Two quick things. It was your best place to play nationals other than prospect. Got to be out of state somewhere. And the other one is, name a couple of your players that highlighted your team over the years.
All right, so the one that let's see.
Your favorite memory of the nationals. Where was it at? What
I would say that was probably either Chandler, Arizona,
nice.
or in Des Moines at Players. That was a lot of fun. It was just. Chandler was, I'm sure you guys were both there. It was Chandler, remember the planes flying overhead and all of a sudden the engine just stops and, later on you see the pilots there. He's like, oh, I had a crash land. But just to be in Arizona and playing, it was nice weather and all that stuff. And
how about 2004 when you walked us off on Sunday in Prescott, Arizona?
Yeah, Prescott was fun too.
I was pitching with Nemesis. Someone's sitting at home, hard slide, ball came out, they walked us off.
Yeah.
And it's on Sunday. I think we had a 4th or 5th place finish that particular year. But you knocked us out in the afternoon game.
Yeah.
And like anything else, when you get to Sunday and you're still playing, you love it.
Yeah, we end up losing the hype that year. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then, some of the guys, I know I talk about Brian all the time, just because he was the start, whatever. But at the end, Joel Schuster really helped run the team. There were some seasons where I couldn't be there for obvious reasons. So Joel helped a lot take over. John Westemeyer came to play with us, Hall of Famer and a great major player. And for him to be like, oh, come play. And, the first time I met John, I was like, oh my God, I know who that is. And he's a super nice guy, probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met. But he would be like, hey, take a step up, take a step back in the box. And he really helped out everybody. Let's see who else. Mike Mays helped us, he came over and, helped. And then unfortunately he left and started, some other teams. The other great thing about, some of these guys is some people would leave teams and then they would come back. Yeah. Kenny Carline, Kenny was, I met Kenny with the Raiders and Kenny was, he came around and, it was just some of these veterans it was nice to have.
Many players.
Yeah.
Jerry, everybody still with us in this picture? Everybody still with us?
Everybody in that picture. Yeah, everybody's still in that picture. Unfortunately, we do have 2 people that are no longer with us. If you look at the list, I did a little asterisk. One was a guy who kind of got me going in the softball. Ronnie Perry.
I played with on the Wanderers.
Yeah, Ronnie was from Rosemont. The first team I ever played with, and big was the Ravens, and we had actually some mixed guys, Anthony and Tony and Greg. And then Jeff Wilson. Jeff played for us. He played for the Roadrunners, and unfortunately, neither of them are still with us. So.
Frank, anything you want to add?
I just 2 things. I just thinking about this. What you guys did was you took from what we had and you made it better. Because what I'm hearing now is that you really had a group together because you got friends from life.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happened to guys at my age, they're all gone. So you guys got to make sure you take care of this and keep it going because you got to develop the next group.
Yeah.
And the next group, because that's how this thing keeps growing.
Yeah. Well, I got 2 little ones right here. One of the jokes that I said is, if in the last couple of years, if you played against us, you would see my son Tony, he'd be out there shagging balls for us. And then all of a sudden you'd look around and you're like, where is he? And now he's over on the other field shagging balls for, the fat kids because he knows Angelo. And I'm like, get back over here. You're on our team. And then, he was keeping our book. And then one of the things that, at the dinner, the Hall of Fame mentioned about trying to get the women's game going and all that stuff. Sure. And,
you never know.
There you go.
So we got my daughter here and, she got a gym teacher who plays all the time. And she's already talking about how, Gianna's going to be the next wave of the girls coming up to help them, so hopefully down the road we'll have Domico's running and
my school's won some championships, so
okay. Good to hear that.
Shout out.
Nicole, I'm going to end it with you. Anything you want to add to this 29-year, and I don't know how long you've known him and how you met him and how you stayed on him,
Well, actually, I met him because of the Stampers.
Okay.
I knew a guy on his team and I went to go out and see Larry Hasselberger play.
So, yeah, but also exposed by policemen.
Yep.
My girlfriend and it just so happened that this guy was up at bat and he had some short shorts on, and I thought he looked cute.
So we could call that the spark.
Yeah,
The
and
shorts.
Mount Prospect, and I asked him for a beer after the game, and now we got two little ones.
Yeah.
We've been together over.
What was in that beer?
I wanna know what you do with the shorts.
They might be in the box with all the other softball stuff in the attic that I gotta get rid of.
Incredible. This conclude, go ahead, one more question, yeah.
First of all, it's great seeing your family here, because that's the fabric of our game. Family,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
We have a softball family. This is
This
a
is it.
softball family.
Mhm.
So that's great. Number two, I commend you. Player manager 30+ years, one of the hardest
Yeah.
jobs on a softball team is the player manager. He did it
Yep.
forever.
Yeah,
I dabbled in it for many years, okay, and to be able to play and manage and still perform on both levels takes a unique individual.
yes,
So this honor for you and your team is a lot because of you and the commitment you gave. And that's why me and Pat Caputo were behind you 100% that this is gonna come one day because it was earned.
right, no, very good.
So I
Yeah.
wanted to bring that up.
Thank you for saying it that way. Go ahead, Nicole.
He would sit himself a lot to let
So-
other guys play. To the
Sure,
point where I'd yell at him.
yeah, sure, because you knew, you were the outsider looking in and you
Yeah.
saw what was going on.
Yeah.
This concludes our today's Hall of Fame inductee interview with Jerry. And I have to tell you, this was great. And congratulations to your team. And this is going to go out on YouTube and Spotify in the coming days on social media. Paul gets it out. But this was tremendous. We're going to have another one I think next week the hall will be closed because of our Thanksgiving weekend upon us. So we'll be back here, I think maybe on December 3rd or 4th for another interview with either an inductee or a team. And again, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this was great today. Thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks later.